What is up, everybody? Hey, this is Ryan Braley. Hey, coming at you from Mike's office. I call it the laboratory. Hey, I'm going to give you the entire idea of this podcast in like one sentence, and then you can tune out if you want to, or you can hear the whole thing. But here's the bottom line, what I want to tell you. Hey, today, you need to slow down. Slow down. And also today, you need to quiet down. That's it. That's all I got. If you want to tune out, you can. But I got a couple other things I want to say in regard to that. So if you know me, you know that my personality is like, I like to feel all the things. Like, I love it. I like to feel life like on level 10 if I can. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I'm not jumping out of airplanes or wrestling alligators. But aside from that, I just love it. Like, I love coffee, and I love coffee because of the feeling, the physical sensation it gives to me in the morning when it's like I can just breathe in deep, and it feels like I drank rocket fuel, and I'm ready to go. I love to go to, like, I love water parks. I love going down water slides because I just feel like extra alive when I'm on a water slide. I don't know. And I love fishing. I really enjoy being on the lake and catching fish and like the struggle with the fish. And anyway, if you know me, I like to feel all the feels. And so I wanted to tell you a story. I was at this retreat last week. You probably heard about this on other podcasts, or if you're at Central, you heard me talk about it. But I was on a retreat up in the mountains for 5 days. And we would do all kinds of things individually on our own, and then we'd come back together as a group. And I think unconsciously, I wanted to, right from the jump, experience like the magic of God out in the wilderness in Colorado, in the Uncompahgre forest up in the San Juan Mountains of that part of the Rockies. And for like the first 2 days, though, I felt nothing. Like I was like flatlined. I felt vanilla. I felt nothing. And so we'd come back together in our groups and we would talk about it. And I remember sharing with our group, I'm like, I don't feel anything. I've been engaging. I'm here. I'm doing all the things we're supposed to do. I'm going on all these wanders. I'm looking for God. I'm praying. I'm open. I'm quiet, whatever. But I feel nothing. And we were all kind of processing what that meant. And at one point, our guide, she was the guide for my small group, she's like, "Hey, Ryan, just so you know, soul work is very subtle." And that was kind of all she said. And I was like, huh? And then I began to realize, like, soul work, it is like working on the soul or experiencing God. Oftentimes, these things can feel like big moments, like mountaintop experiences where the God is found in the thunder or the lightning or the fire, and Moses comes down from the mountain, his face is glowing. Yeah, that happens. But oftentimes, soul work or prayer or encountering the divine can be very, very subtle. And here's the thing, many things in my life are not subtle. I love caffeine. I like to go 100 miles an hour. I even talk like that. You probably gathered from these podcasts. And sometimes those things can drown out my own soul work or my own encounters with God, I've learned. And so what's good for me to do? Well, to slow down or to quiet down. There's this wonderful story where Elijah, God tells him, "Hey, go up into this cave and I'll come by. I'll come hang out with you." I'm paraphrasing here. And so he does. He goes up to this cave, and Elijah thinks, oh, God will show up like the gods often do in what they call theophanies. And most times in antiquity, theophanies were like in the fire, in the storm, in the lightning, in the great and glamorous, like, just large things, God will show up there. And so all these things happened to Elijah. I think it's fire. It's not, but then it says that God wasn't found in the fire. Or there's an earthquake, but God wasn't found in the earthquake. Or there's a storm, and God was not found in the storm. And then it says he does eventually encounter God. But in the Hebrew, the word could be rendered Elijah finds God in the sheer silence. Which is fascinating. Isn't silence just silence? How can you put an adjective in front of silence? I mean, silence is silence, but he says, or in the text, the Hebrew says something like the sheer silence. Because oftentimes soul work is subtle. So here's also what I've learned. Many of us have these addictions, things that we go to for life that can't really give us life. Or we have these vacancies, these holes in our lives, our souls, our hearts, that we try to fill with all kinds of things other than God. And so I don't know what your addiction is, but your addiction could be something like working too much or alcohol or certainly drugs. Those are ones that are kind of easy to sort of spot. It could be gossip. I don't know what your thing is, but many times these things produce a large experience in our lives. They sort of feel like they're, big and heavy and weighty, and they tend, because they're so big and heavy and weighty, they tend to drown out the subtle soul work, which is why it's hard to do soul work or like encounter God in the sheer silence if you're drinking too much. Do you know what I mean? Or if you're constantly working out at the gym, or whatever your attachment or addiction is, it's hard to often experience God in the sheer silence because the experiences those things produce are much louder. And so this is why oftentimes addictions or attachments can be dangerous, because it can drown out the subtlety of soul work or encountering the divine. So today, like I said, slow down and quiet down. And I would also add, put aside those addictions or attachments, even just for a couple of moments if you can today. Set them down and try to look for God in the sheer silence, in the boredom, in the blasé, in the vanilla, in the flatness of your experience. And don't try to run away or escape from that. Lean into it and search for God. All right, I love you guys. Peace out.
Hey, if you enjoy this show, I'd love to have you share it with some friends. And don't forget, you are always welcome to join us in person at Central in Elk River at 8:30, which is our liturgical gathering, or at 10 o'clock, our modern gathering. Or you can check us out online at clcelkriver.org. Peace.